Their last appearance in Tampa, odds makers have Kansas City as the favorite to win it at SoFi. RC, would you take the Chiefs or the field to win the Super Bowl?
I'm going to take the Chiefs. Now, you asked me this question at the beginning of the season when there's 31 other teams, then I would say the field because we don't really know what's going on. But of the 4 teams that are left in the playoffs, and also you look at the Cincinnati Bengals being their AFC Championship opponent, I expect them to win that game. And I'm picking Los Angeles to beat San Francisco. And if they do that, I'm going to pick the Kansas City Chiefs to beat them as well. It's not as hard to make this decision right now. But when you look at the game that they just played, and Himbo on Get Up came up with a stat. I think teams that played in the wild card of divisional rounds in an overtime game are 7-18 or something like that the next week. But the Chiefs are going to win. The Chiefs are prepared for this moment. When you win a game in the fashion that they did, when the other team is playing as well as the other team is, when the Buffalo Bills, like that sets you apart. Like that's different. And you're moving on to play a football team that even though they beat you in week 17, I believe you're better than. And so I believe that Patrick Mahomes wins this game. I believe that Patrick Mahomes gets another Super Bowl ring and another Super Bowl MVP. And we start to speak about him differently because it's the Chiefs over the field as it stands.
Go ahead, Sam.
Well, yeah, RC, you believe that the Chiefs are better than the Bengals, but the Bengals don't believe that, right? The Bengals don't believe that in their heart of hearts and soul of souls. And they don't believe that based off of history, right? Just a few weeks ago. And they also don't believe that just based off of who they are as a football team. I mean, you even said it yourself. You would say that they are more talented, at least have more offensive weapons, what you said earlier, than the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's, yeah, skill players. And that's true. Like, that's hands down true, right? I don't know who is going to guard Jamar Chase, right? I don't know who's going to try to stop him. Then you got T. I mean, we can go down the list. So for me, I would take the field. And the reason why is not because, at the beginning of the season you didn't know, and now I think now you actually have an argument to be made for each one of those teams. Our argument is obvious for the Bengals, right? They just beat them, offensive firepower, Joe Burrow, etc. That's an obvious argument. I think the Bengals are going to win. Then you go to the LA Rams side. LA Rams, the argument is obvious there as well. With Matthew Stafford, it could be their year with the weapons defensively. You've got the best defensive tackle in the game, one of the best outside linebackers over the last decade in Von Miller. You have the best DB, or one of the best if you want to argue it, in the game in Jalen Ramsey. And then on the offensive side, Odell, et cetera, Cooper Kupp, et cetera. And then for the then for the 49ers, you're not making the quarterback argument, but for that team, you're making the argument of, man, this is the hottest team in football right now, the team that nobody wants to face. If they make it back to the Super Bowl, maybe they'll avenge their loss from a few years ago. So I think there's an argument that could be made for each and every one of those teams. So I'm not taking the Chiefs by any means. I'm taking the field.
I'm taking the Chiefs. I'm taking the Chiefs because of Patrick Mahomes. I'm taking the Chiefs because of that. Because of examples like that play with Tyreek Hill where Patrick Mahomes hit him in the middle of the field and then he outran the whole damn team. I mean, this brother just puts on that backpack, brother, and just zooms. I mean, he is something special. He is something spectacular. And Travis Kelce, my brother from another mother, the one with the impeccable decision-making, that brother right there shows up as well. And listen, Pringle and others, we know what they're capable of doing. What I would say to you, Sam, is this. I don't blame you for expressing the trepidation that you've expressed because at the beginning of the season, Ryan, to bring back what you were alluding to, the Kansas City's defense, Chiefs' defense was trash. It was horrible. It was god-awful. Yeah. We know that. And then they hit a switch. They made a move. You acquired Melvin Ingram. You've got some pieces there, switched up through more defensive backs into your secondary, obviously. And from the time they went up against Tennessee thereafter, throughout most of the season, they did their thing, and it's been very impressive. Then they went up against Cincinnati during the regular season and gave up 475 yards offensively and 34 points. Their pass defense is horrid, and you can throw the football on them. I believe the Chiefs are going to win this game, but I believe it's going to be eerily similar to what happened last week against Buffalo. Patrick Mahomes and that offense, led by Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, who should be, if Mr. Nathaniel Hackett can be a head coach, Eric Bieniemy should be a head coach, okay? I mean, those two dudes along with the personnel that they have on that offense, I can see a shootout. And that shootout, to me, ultimately goes to Patrick Mahomes, even going up against the great Joe Burrow. I just don't believe for 1 second that Kansas City's defense is all of a sudden going to shut somebody down. Now, I see over 30 by both teams in this game.
I mean, that can happen.
Let me just say this.
The first game. Oh, go ahead, Ash. You got it.
Well, I just want to make a quick point because a lot of people are pointing to the way the game ended against the Bills, right? Bad clock management and how that went down and how the Chiefs won that one. Even pointed to the way that the game ended with the Cowboys, 14 seconds left. But if you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, not only are they the least penalized team in the NFL, but even more so, the way that they've handled the clock in critical situations is different than these other teams. We saw the Bills do what no one would expect and mess up on didn't do a squib kick, and then with 13 seconds, you leave stuff wide open. In Week 17, when the Chiefs played the Bengals had the ball with 6 minutes left, and they took the ball all the way down the field. Then they had the ball at the 11-yard line with 3 minutes left. Kansas City did not touch the ball again in that time period. And you know who won? The Bengals won. That's a huge win. Same with Tennessee last week. It came down to the last second of the game. And so when it comes to clock management, decision-making, who's the wiser team, you cannot just say that the Bengals aren't going to do it well because they've done it well every single time.
Yep, and they beat them Week 17.
You got it, Molly. I'm sorry. I was just saying, like, I think my argument isn't that the Cincinnati Bengals aren't capable. It's that the Kansas City Chiefs are more capable. Yes, we watched them lose in Week 17, but you mentioned having the ball on the goal line with 3 minutes left. There was also penalties, right? Zach Taylor also went for it on the 4th down where Joe Mixon didn't get into the end zone, but there was a pass interference. And so there were so many things that went into that. There was also, I have to admit, it was great play by the Cincinnati Bengals secondary and defense in the second half that only allowed the Kansas City Chiefs to score 3 points. I'm not expecting that to happen again.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.